Would you like it if the United States, Canada, and Mexico all combined into one large North American country? We'd be giving up far too much of our own freedom and independence and identity. The fear of losing independence is exactly what Americans thought in 1787 when they were asked to combine their 13 separate states into one consolidated American nation. Hello everyone, I'm Bob G, the History Doctor. The term states' rights is thrown around a lot these days. Years ago, say 5 years ago, the Republicans, and especially the Tea Party, were the party of states' rights. They opposed things like President Obama's Affordable Care Act and the Supreme Court's recognition of gay marriage. The Democrats at the time advocated for federal power over the states. Now that the administrations have switched, it's the Republicans that want national power and the demos invoking states' rights. It boggles the mind. Americans fought the revolution against Great Britain as 13 distinct societies, not one nation. And as separate states, when the war was over, those separate states insisted on keeping their unique identities. They did not want to be melted down into one sprawling nation. That's why the Constitution created the Senate, to give the state governments a specific platform as states. But in 1788, the states were very different. Georgia was based on plantation agriculture and slavery, while a frigid New England state like Massachusetts was based on importing and exporting, banking, whaling, and commerce. It was believed at the time that the states were so different from one another that one national government couldn't possibly meet all their needs and interests. So the states had to be free to make their own laws. Americans called anti-federalists thought that the federal government was a voluntary association of the states, and that it was a marriage contract they could dissolve and divorce at any time if the marriage became not in their interests. The Anti-Federalists claimed that if any act of Congress harmed the interests of their state, the state had the right to refuse it. Federalists said the nation can't exist if one state can give itself the right to overturn a federal law, that acts of Congress would be a joke if states could simply refuse to cooperate, and that small and separate societies are weak on things like transportation or military security. In 1832, South Carolina tried to nullify a federal tax. The vice president at the time, John C. Calhoun, otherwise known as the Mouth of the South, argued that a state was free to overturn any act of Congress that harmed their interests and even withdraw from the Union. President Andrew Jackson asserted federal power at the time and even threatened to invade South Carolina with the federal army. Workers on the Underground Railroad believed that the federal Fugitive Slave Act was wrong and they wouldn't cooperate with it. Also, the Little Rock education crisis of 1957, where state governments said school curriculums are a state responsibility and the feds should butt out. The Civil War was the ultimate expression of states' rights, when 11 state governments rebelled and waged warfare against the nation to separate themselves from federal authority, invoking many of the same arguments that the colonists had when they broke away from Great Britain. Today we think of the state governments as laboratories of democracy. But it is a problem that the Constitution contradicts itself. In one place, it states that federal laws are the supreme law of the land, and all states have to obey them. And then in other places, it gives the states wide sovereignty over day-to-day laws of our lives. The term states' rights is a vague idea that will be invoked by any movement or group of people that has lost on the federal level and thinks that it might be able to prevail at the state level. So states' rights and federal power is an endless tug of war. So our question is, at what level of government are problems best solved? pollution, healthcare, education? Where are the most enlightened decisions made? Don't look for consistency amongst our leaders. You won't find it. They go back and forth and invoke either argument at any given moment just based on where their interests reside. It's up to us as citizens to reason the issues and make sensible decisions on where the best policies are made. It takes the vigilance of citizenship and, of course, a knowledge and sense of our history.